Let's start out with long ball number one here on a Wednesday. We were not here on Monday. The news dropped over the weekend. On Monday, we got the actual resolution to this court case that has been going on since 2017. U.S. Soccer and MLS triumph in this court case against the NASL. Of course, the NASL had sued U.S. Soccer and MLS for colluding, for anti-competitive behaviors around the professional league standards and everything that went into NASL trying to be a top-tier league. The U.S. Soccer decision on the professional league standards basically undermining their ability to operate, in at least in their telling of it. And so we got this unilateral decision by the court, by the jury, to dismiss the case. U.S. Soccer, MLS certainly happy. Here is Major League Soccer's statement on this news. MLS pleased that the jury found U.S. Soccer and Major League Soccer in dismissing for those organizations, dismissing the meritless claims. I mean, that's tough. Filed by the NASL. The jury's verdict confirms this case was nothing more than an attempt by NASL to deflect blame for its own failures. Since our inception in 1996, MLS has been dedicated to making the necessary investments to elevate the sport of soccer and provide an exceptional experience for players and fans. Today, our focus remains unchanged, and we look forward to furthering our efforts to grow soccer in America. All right, people, look, here's the thing. Major League Soccer, certainly U.S. Soccer, who is the main part of this case. I mean, we could talk about MLS's role and whether they were pushing U.S. Soccer to deny NASL the professional league sanctioning that they needed to operate. That is obviously at the heart of the matter. But this is really about U.S. Soccer for most people. Right? This is about how everybody sees U.S. Soccer as an engine towards holding the game back rather than helping it grow. Now, as I said before, and this is not a legal opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but this is certainly how I view part of the problem here that we have in American soccer when it comes to court cases like this, when we have the idea of anti-competitive behavior on the part of U.S. Soccer MLS. We have these laws for a reason, right? These antitrust laws. They say you cannot collude to hold back a business. Now, in this case, NASL used those laws to sue U.S. Soccer and MLS in court, saying that you kept us down, you restricted our ability to compete. This was all to benefit MLS, and this was illegal behavior. That sounds like a good thing. I mean, certainly these laws have a place. The reason we have them is to prevent real collusion, real anti-competitive behavior that would prevent a business from growing unfairly. But that also, because that's baked into our legal system in this country, it also means U.S. Soccer cannot have the kind of hand necessary to institute the kind of multi-tier pyramid that so many people dream of. So it is a catch-22 here. We have these laws, and Rocco says you can't do what you did because we think you cheated us. But we also have a U.S. Soccer that can't go too far down that road or they will be sued. And ultimately, in the end here, what the court decided is that NASL was so poorly run, it didn't matter whether there was anti-competitive things happening. Actually, that's probably not fair. But NASL was so poorly run that they were unable to prove that the reason why they ultimately were not able to succeed as a league is because U.S. Soccer and MLS did anything that was untoward. That was MLS's statement. Here is Jeffrey Kessler's statement, the lawyer for the NASL. This is from Jeff Carlisle's piece over at ESPN. Jeffrey Kessler of the law firm Winston & Strawn, who was the NASL's lead attorney, said, "We have great respect for the jury process, but there were some fundamental legal errors which prevented the jurors from receiving important evidence or being instructed on the correct legal standards and claims. Our client accordingly expects to appeal." This is standard boilerplate stuff. Like, I can't tell you if he's right. I mean, I can't tell you legally if he's got a point here, but I will turn to a lawyer, our friend Stephen Bank from the UCLA Law School, a man that I interviewed on this show just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, as the trial was getting underway, as we tried to catch everybody up on what had been happening since 2017, now that we had finally reached this point. And I hope to get to talk to Stephen Bank again to kind of put a bow on this. So he says, under antitrust law, defining the relevant market is critical. And then he says, my guess is that the jury was unconvinced that D1 and D2 U.S. Pro Soccer leagues were actual markets, given that fans and sponsors and players can freely go to other soccer leagues, other sports leagues, other countries' leagues, or other entertainment generally, right? The idea here that Stephen is explaining is that soccer is not unto itself an individual market, right? Soccer is not a market. Sports are a market, or international things. I mean, again, this kind of comes back to what Jeffrey Kessler lost, the court case he lost against MLS with Frazier v. MLS 20 years ago, or 25 years ago almost at this point, which was the challenge to the single entity model of Major League Soccer. At that point, the argument was this restricts the ability of these players within the league to move freely because you've got this single entity and you are dictating where players play, and they can't pit one club against another in order to get a better contract. And the court basically said, well, you can go to a different league. You can leave. You can go somewhere else. You can go play in a different league. You don't have to play in Major League Soccer. Therefore, you don't. Your point or your argument here doesn't hold water legally, even if it doesn't feel right. And let's make sure that we're clear on this. This does not feel right. I don't believe for a second that U.S. Soccer and MLS didn't have conversations about NASL as a challenge to Major League Soccer's dominance in America. Right? I don't believe for a second they didn't have those. But whether or not it measured up, and again, whether or not NASL proved its case are different things. And I've certainly seen the opinion from people that this just, MLS can and U.S. Soccer can just go on colluding again. They can just go ahead and keep doing this. And there's certainly a cynical viewpoint on where we are with this situation and how soccer grows. And I will say that I tend to agree with my friend Justin, the illustrious president of the Sons of Ben. It's laughable that MLS says it's growing the sport in North America when it tried to kill the Open Cup. Right? This is the tension between business and what is good for the business and sort of what is good for soccer writ large. And those things don't always overlap. Right? That's the problem we have fundamentally in America. At this point in capitalism, at this point in our history as a country, and as a country that is so business focused, right? This is why antitrust law exists. This is why we are putting into place or choosing certain things when it comes to how businesses operate, right? I've been thinking about this a lot with some of the recent happenings in the world, and not to get political, because that's not what this is for, but certainly we live in a world where the idea that private business should be in charge of things, kind of makes sense. Let the market decide. This is what a capitalist would say. Let the market decide what the people want, right? If the people respond and buy a product, well, that's the market deciding. And certainly and for some people, there shouldn't be any rules around what you can tell a company how they can operate, right? Let the market decide. But then you can't trust that any business is actually keeping the interest of its consumers, its customers, in Major League Soccer's case, its customers, at heart in every step of the way, everything that they do, right? And in the case of Major League Soccer, this magnanimous idea that Major League Soccer is here to grow the sport in America only goes so far as it helps Major League Soccer as a business. Because Major League Soccer has shareholders, right? They've got people that have invested, and they have to respond to those people, right? There is a fiduciary responsibility in every business to the shareholders. You have to do what is best for the shareholders. And guess what? Oftentimes that means you are doing things that aren't good for the customer, for the consumer. And that's the tension that we're in right now with Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer has done plenty of good things in American soccer. I think it would be ridiculous to say otherwise. That doesn't mean that Major League Soccer has been perfect or that they didn't do things to maintain their market dominance. I don't know that they were really afraid of NASL, but every business, it doesn't matter how small the potential competition, every business moves to protect itself, to protect its market share when things like that come up. So NASL loses. The case was flawed from the beginning. there was really no hope of NASL winning this based on some of the things that came out in court. We did talk about Carmelo Anthony going up on the stand and talking about a situation in Puerto Rico, which makes me sad because, as I've mentioned before, my wife is Puerto Rican. I would love for soccer to thrive in Puerto Rico. I do believe a new team is starting soon in Puerto Rico, backed by Yadier Molina, former catching great of Major League Baseball, and apparently Bad Bunny's involved somehow as well, so I'm excited for that. Let's see what happens in Puerto Rico. But Carmelo Anthony couldn't hack it in Puerto Rico partly because of Maria, and the court was basically like, why is he talking about things that are about his club and not about what the league suffered through whatever collusion may have been